You alright guys, and welcome to yet another video by myself, Leithall. More of a generic football video today, not specifically on footstock like we have been doing a lot of late. This channel is generally just for football content, so we've done bits of Football Index in the past. For as long as I can remember, we've done sort of footstock now. But there will be like FPL videos from time to time, Chelsea videos as I'm a Chelsea fan. Today we're actually going to be doing, like I said, a generic football video, and we're going to be predicting the Premier League table for the 2020-2021 season. Now for me this is probably the hardest it's been for a hell of a long time, because I feel like the table could end up being all over the place, but for the right reasons this season. Last season we kind of see it, teams out of position to what you'd expect them to be, and I feel like that was down to actually a lot of the teams being, performing poorly, as opposed to what I think we'll see this year is a much more competitive league where a lot of teams are getting better, and that's why we're seeing teams you wouldn't expect to be up there, and that's sort of dropping other teams down. So it's going to be a really interesting video. Nonetheless, I know that not one of you watching this video will agree with all of my teams, all my selections in this, and you probably won't even agree with any of them. So that's sort of comes with the nature of this sort of video. So by all means, start a discussion in the comments below. Let me know what you think of mine and where I've gone wrong and why. I'd love to see it. This is just a sort of fun video. Thought I'd predict it. It'd be fun to look back in about a year's time and see how bad exactly I was. Before we get started though, I did just want to thank you guys for 1,000 subscribers. So this is the first video I've made since hitting 1,000 subscribers. It was a great milestone. Very soon we'll sort of unlock a few more things we can do on the YouTube channel. Not quite there yet. We need to get a few more hours watched by you guys. Thank you for everyone that is new. If you're new watching this video and haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe and like this video. I've rambled for long enough, so I think we're ready to get into this video. So here I am editing the video, and I just thought I'd add this in there because since I made the predictions, I then a little while afterwards recorded the video, and even in that period I said that I was doubting some of my predictions here. It's now been a little while since then, and I'm actually editing this video, and there's been a few new transfers that have come in for various clubs that is really making me doubt some of my predictions, especially at the bottom of the table. However, I made the predictions, I made the video, I had good reasoning behind it at the time, so we've got to sort of stick with it. But just if you're looking at the predictions and thinking, I'm not sure about that, especially at the bottom, just know that I'm sort of feeling the same as well. But we're going to stick with it and see how we get on, so I hope you enjoy it. So for this video I've got my graphics within a very trusty PowerPoint, so that I can show you guys team by team, sort of reveal the table that I've predicted one by one. And I won't lie to you, I got a bit carried away because I found the old transitions that I used to do back in the day on PowerPoint at school. Some awesome transitions, preset transitions in PowerPoint, so look out for them, they're pretty mega. And also I haven't scripted or even gone through any of these teams, so I'm just going to say what comes to my head if it works. Bam, there we go. I took a few things into account. Obviously their position last year, I guess to a certain extent, is something to take into account. The sort of league table after lockdown, the end of last season, because I think that sort of form might have an effect and might carry over because we haven't had much of a break. I've obviously taken transfers so far massively into account, but the thing is I'm recording this video on a Tuesday, if that helps you, and more transfers are sort of going through as we go. And a lot of the ones that have happened in the previous days have massively had an effect on my predictions here, so I'm sure the ones in the coming days will also sort of maybe put this prediction in the bin a bit. But the main thing that really sort of gave me a good starting point, at least here, is I found a website where you can sort of predict all the results for all 38 game weeks. Now I didn't sit there and literally think about all of them, and I didn't put particular scores, and I only put 1-0s to who I thought might win. Basically I want the results, not the scores, and literally slammed them through literally within about 10 minutes. I wasn't thinking about it, but just gut feeling who I thought might win each game, and it gave me a rough sort of table, a table that I haven't changed massively going into here. I've changed a few positions that I thought were a little bit out. So that's the story behind it. I've taken a few things into account. My football knowledge isn't superior. Yours is probably a lot better. So like I said, leave in the comment section down below where I've gone wrong. But other than that, I think we're ready to get into it. We're going to start with 20th and work our way up to reveal the whole table here. Big drum roll for 20th place. It's a big surprise, I tell you. Oh, tease. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's Fulham, isn't it? And I hate to be that guy, and it's barely been a prediction that I've seen that hasn't predicted Fulham to be relegated. And I do hope they prove us wrong, but realistically, they weren't convincing the way they got promoted. Through the playoffs is always a bit iffy, but even that, it wasn't a convincing win in the playoffs to get through. I don't watch a lot of Championship football, I'm not going to pretend, so with the 3 promoted teams here, I'm a bit iffy with them. But from what I did see of Fulham, I just don't think there's enough depth in their team, enough Premier League quality. You've got the odd player there. Going forward, they don't look disastrously bad. But as a team in general, I'll be quite surprised if they do manage to stay up. In a year's time, hopefully I've been proven wrong, to be honest with you. I say hopefully, I'm a Chelsea fan. Fulham are our closest rivals in terms of distance. But for me, I don't want to talk about it for too long, but it's like everyone's prediction. Okay then, going into the next one, we've got an awesome transition, don't you worry. Oh, put them in the bin. I thought it was quite relevant actually, that one, but again, we might be proven wrong. I've gone with a bit of a one I haven't seen so much of here, and it's actually Aston Villa in 19th place. The reason being, I just don't think I don't know if they've learnt lessons from last year. They weren't good enough last year. They stayed up by the skin of their teeth by goal line technology, sort of bad. It wasn't even turned on or whatever. That was the sort of a result that went their way that maybe saved them in the end. For me, obviously, Grealish is a massive player for them. It looks like they've kept him. What is going to be a big bonus if he was gone, they had no hope, in my opinion. They've got Grealish still. They've got a squad that's alright. I think they've brought in Matty Cash from Nottingham Forest, I want to say, who's a good signing. But for me, they haven't done enough. I know they spent a lot of money when they first got promoted into the Prem. I'm not fully convinced by the manager, Although I've made these predictions, honestly, since making the predictions and making all these graphics, I've been doubting myself, and I'm not sure about all these, and it's so hard to call. The sort of top 13 of the table are really, really close, and then at the bottom as well, it's going to be sort of hit and miss, and I'm not sure who is going to get relegated, but I've gone with Aston Villa as 19th place. 18th place, the final relegation. Who squeezes into it? It's Brighton. Now this is another, one that I think a lot of you guys are going to disagree with. This is one that I probably most regret since literally making the predictions and then making the graphics. I think the team I put in 17th could easily drop down and sort of replace Brighton, because they're not a bad team. But the issue I have, again, with their squad is depth. And I don't see much movement in the transfer window. They've got a couple of bits of quality going forward, like Morpay and Trossard are both good options. At the back, they're quite defensively sound to a certain extent. Obviously, Ryan in goal. I think they lost Duffy, but I'm not sure he really played too much. Dunk looks like they're going to hold on to Dunk. What is a big one for them. Lamperty on the wing. But I see that they've lost Moy, who I thought was a great centre mid for them. I think I'm going into a bit too much detail here. But I think they could struggle. I think they'll be in the relegation battle. Whether they'll survive or not, we'll have to see. And I think 17th place here, that I'll show you right now, is the other promoted team in West Brom. I've got a weird feeling they're going to stay up. And again, I don't know a whole lot about them. I know they've got a couple of decent players in there. Realistically, probably not a Premier League standard team. But it's going to be a relegation battle. And I've been in the Prem a decent amount. They've got a decent Prem sort of pedigree to a certain extent. And something just, tells me that they're going to stay up. But I don't know a lot about them, and that's where I could easily see a bit of switching and swapping really between Brighton, maybe even Aston Villa, because we talk about big clubs. Aston Villa are a big club, and maybe they clutch up. They clutched up last year. Maybe they can find a bit of form. I think the confidence is going to be big for all of these teams, especially these promoted teams. I think getting off to a good start in the Prem is always going to help you. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on in their sort of opening fixtures. Moving on into 16th, a team that, again, not so confident about is Crystal Palace. Now, this is a team that always seem to survive. They've got the facilities to survive in the Premier League. Their squad is quite good. Again, another big player that one of these teams have held on to. Zaha, he's still at Crystal Palace. We thought maybe he might leave. They've got other good players. Van Aanholt, for me, is a really, really good defender. Obviously, I think going into the season he's going to be injured. But the reason I've dropped them down here is maybe for a bit of bad reasoning here, but it's sort of based off their post-lockdown form. They went into, I think they got 4 points out of their last 9 games or something like really bad like that. Maybe that's not right, don't take my word for that, but a very bad point total from those last 9 games. And they just didn't look very convincing. Now, new season could be completely different. I think I also maybe looked at their pre-season, and I can't remember exactly how that's going. I think their pre-season's going quite well, but I've put Crystal Palace down there in 16th. You know, a pretty boring manager, gets the job done, some might say. Maybe a bit harsh on Crystal Palace this one, but we'll have to see how they get on. In 15th place, we've gone for West Ham. A player that struggled last year, and quite the opposite of Crystal Palace, really did find some form after the lockdown. And again, they've got a good squad. It's a case of if they can all come together and actually play to the standard they should. But I feel like I've seen too much, too often in the last few seasons, expecting something good to come from West Ham, and it never really come in. And I'm really not a fan of David Moyes as a manager. I know, again, he's one of these managers that gets the job done, but for me, I'm just not a fan of him. And it's just a case of if some of the big, I mean, like a prime example for West Ham for me is Felipe Anderson. He has been a world-class player, but at West Ham he doesn't put the effort in. He doesn't deserve to be in that starting 11 because he doesn't put the effort in when he does play. So he needs to find some motivation, find his love for football, find some love for West Ham, and players like that getting into the starting lineup with Bowen. You obviously got Antonio that proved himself at the end of last season. Sebastian Haller that should be a good striker. They've got quality and could easily end up, you know, well exceeding my expectations here of 15th. But at the same time, I've seen a lot in the past to tell me different, that they could easily end up right down there in the sort of bottom quarter to third of the Premier League table. So I've gone with them. It's really tough, honestly, guys. I'd love for you guys to maybe on this video comment your predictions, all 20 teams. So when I look back at the the end of this season, I can also look back on yours, because a lot of you guys are going to be quick to say this is a dreadful set of predictions, but it really is tough, especially this season. So many teams are improving. I feel like we're going to see a very different season this year. Moving on, we've gone for Burnley, a team that consistently managed to sort of get around that mid-table sort of finish. I don't think they're going to be quite as high up this year round. Honestly, looking at their team every year, you wonder how they end up finishing where they do. And for me this season, I think they'll be at the top end of the relegation strap, so that they won't be right down there. The rest of the teams will always be sort of clipping at their heels, and it'll always be something they're looking back at and push them to get the results. Burnley, I like Sean Dyche as a manager. I think he's a good manager, and although some people sort of doubt the way he sets up, again, in the Premier League, it's proven time and time again it works, and it's a sort of similar set of players every year. So we'll have to see how they get on. Some quality players in there. Maybe not enough depth to be up there like they have been in the previous years. You know, no action in the transfer window as per usual from Burnley. So I've put them at 14. Next, we've gone for Leeds United. A lot of you guys might have been sat here waiting like, where's Leeds? Where's Leeds? I've put them quite high up, 13th. I think they've got some quality in their team. This one might be a bit too ambitious for Leeds. Obviously they're a big club. They're up there and beyond the likes of Aston Villa in terms of big club status, and a club that should be in the Premier League. Now, Leeds haven't been in the Premier League for a long time. They've been battling, they've been struggling to get up, and they're here now, and I feel like they are going to take their opportunity. I feel like they will stay up. They have got some good players, and I wouldn't be surprised to see some more transfers coming in before, the transfer window goes up to like the 5th of October, so certainly a lot of time still to make improvements to the team. They've already signed Rodrigo, what is absolutely massive, like a Spanish international striker, probably the best they've got, to be honest with you, fairly young as well. Brings a lot to the Leeds team, so I think they could do well. Maybe I've been too ambitious. I mean, the likes of Crystal Palace, West Ham and Burnley underneath them could be a bit harsh. Even Aston Villa, Brighton. This is what I mean. I feel like Leeds downwards, it's a bit of a just fucking do what you want, really. It's tough, man. Moving on into 12th position, we've got Sheffield United. Now, this is a team that got promoted last year and had an absolute mega season, but for me, they're not going to quite live up to that. They'll comfortably stay up in the division, but just looking at their team, I honestly I struggle to believe how they've done quite so well. We know that they're so solid in defence, but going forward, like looking at their attacking options, looking at Ollie McBurney, McGoldrick. My favourite of their attackers is actually Les Muse, or however you say his name. But he only ever seems to come on as an impact sub player. But for me, he's my favourite. You've got like Sharp, and just for me, they're not really Premier League standard attackers. So for me, the big issue of Sheffield United is how they score goals. Defensively, we know they're good. They've lost Henderson, but have gained Ramsdale, who's another great goalkeeper. I think with the protection of their solid defence, they should still be okay defensively. But for me, the issue's going forward. So we have to see how that goes down. I think they will grind out results and get around that mid-table. But I don't see them getting anywhere near to the sort of levels they did last year. In 11th place, I've gone for Newcastle United. Now, this is a prediction that very much has changed in the previous few days. They've gone big in the transfer window. Obviously, the takeover didn't happen. However, in the past couple of days, if I can remember correctly, they've signed Callum Wilson from Bournemouth alongside Ryan Fraser. Now, a couple of seasons ago, those two linked together for like the most linked goals in a season. Fraser assist to Wilson. So it'll be interesting to see them two back together. I really do rate Fraser as a player. Really struggled last season, as did Wilson, obviously, in a not very strong Bournemouth side. And they've also recently signed Jamal Lewis from Norwich. Now, I'm from Norwich, and I know he's a real talent, a young sort of fullback for Newcastle. Defensively, Newcastle weren't very good last season. I think Dubravka's maybe injured as well, what isn't ideal for them. So defensively, especially at the start of the season, they could struggle. But with the new additions going forward, as well as ASM, St Maximin, I really think they are a force going forward to a certain extent. Joe Linton, I mean, I don't know if he's going to get much game time now, but realistically, they bought him as a decent striker, and he's just been diabolical since he joined. So maybe if he finds a bit of form, a bit of confidence, he can prove us wrong. But I can't imagine he's going to get much of a say now with Wilson, who's sort of proven himself in the Prem. But either way, I've put Newcastle in quite an ambitious 11th place based on their recent transfers. 10th, moving on into the top half of the table this season. I've gone with Southampton. I'm expecting quite big things from Southampton. I couldn't really squeeze them in any higher. And again, post-COVID form at the end of last season, they were really good. They scored goals. Ings, Redmond for me is one to watch out for. I think Redmond's always been a good player. I remember him back at Norwich in the day. And he really found some form and was producing some really impressive stats, especially in terms of footstock towards the end of the season. I think goal contributions will be great from him. Likes of Armstrong as well in that midfield. James Ward-Prowse, consistency is there. So I think for Southampton, they could really have a good season this season, and I'm expecting big things out of them. Moving in to 9th place, we've got Leicester. So they were like nailed on 3rd position at some point last season. It went downhill in the second half of the season, and they ended up 5th, missing out on Champions League spots, and I think it's just going to go downhill from there. They've got a good team, but everything seems to be drained out of them. They've obviously lost Chilwell as well, which isn't massive. It's a bit of a dampener to sort of defence. They've brought someone in to replace him. Don't know a lot about him, to be honest with you. But for me, I just think they're going to struggle with a lot of other teams strengthening and, potentially going to do really well this season. I think that just, some teams have to drop down, and I think Leicester's one of them that could potentially do that. I quite like them as a club, but they've certainly got to change something and find that confidence and form, unlike they did post-COVID. In 8th position, we've gone for Everton. Another one that has potentially, for a few seasons now, we've been expecting big things out of Everton, waiting for them to get that status, that really sort of, maybe even top 7 Premier League status back. I don't think they're quite going to do it, but they're going to be taking leaps and bounds towards that, and great development for the club with the signings that they've made. So at the time of making this video, they've just announced their 3rd midfield signing. So James Rodriguez, I've forgotten the other one, Allen from Napoli, and today Decore from Watford. So, I mean, that is massive. Those three alone in midfield is incredible if they were to play, three in midfield. All very, very great options. You've still got Sigurdsson that hasn't been so good of late, but has proven himself in the past. So I feel like they've got a lot of quality. Alongside that, they've still got Richarlison that has really got quality. He's still very young. Calvert-Lewin scored a lot of goals last year. I don't massively rate him, but with the sort of creativity coming in with these midfielders, that could help him out. And they're fairly decent at the back as well, so I really think Everton could do well this season. I struggle to see them doing much better than this, but definitely could be contenders for the top 7. 7th, I've gone with Tottenham Hotspur. Again, they've got a great team, haven't they? Let's be honest. Well, they've got a great team going forward. They've got lots of options. They've got Harry Kane, Son, who I rate so highly, and then many options in the midfield and sort of behind. They haven't got really a standout wing players, I'd say, is Tottenham's biggest weakness. And at the back, they've struggled to look. I mean, even with Mourinho's tactics, they haven't looked too solid at the back. They've obviously brought in Doherty, which is a great addition, I think. If Mourinho allows him to get forward, that is going to be a great addition to this side. They're going to be up there, but unfortunately, pushing for top 4 just isn't going to be achievable, in my opinion. Maybe I'm being a bit biased as a Chelsea fan here. Great squad, a manager. I want to say great manager, but I don't know anymore. We'll just have to see how they get on. I've had to put them in 7th. Moving on into the top 6, we go with Wolves. For me, a great club, performed so well last season, was so tough for any team to play again. It's not a fixture anymore that you want to be coming up against. Such a strong side, continued to strengthen with some awesome young assets in this transfer window. They didn't manage to make Europa League or Champions League last year. So I think having that off the table is going to help them focus on the Premier League with an already great team that was fairly solid defensively. They've lost Doherty, but I think they can sort of cope without him. And then going forward, Jimenez, Jota, Adama, Neto, other young podents, other young players going forward, as well as those experienced players like Moutinho, as well as creative Neves. I'm sort of listing the whole team here, but for me, Wolves are a great side, and I really think they will be up there this season. Moving on into 5th, this is where it gets interesting. You've probably worked out who is left, and you're probably already trying to predict who I've gone with, but just missing out on the Champions League spots based on other quality, simply, is Arsenal. I think Arteta's really making progress on this Arsenal side, and it's showing, really. As a team, they look so much better. He's managed to keep Aubameyang, what is absolutely massive for the club. Bringing some youngsters through and some new signings in. Obviously, I've got Willian from Chelsea, what I'm a little bit salty about still, not going to lie. I'm happy for them to take our old biddies after they want to retire from Chelsea. But at the same time, he will do a job. Willian will do a job for Arsenal. We probably will get goals and assists and will be a good, valuable asset in the Premier League. So it's a good signing there. They've strengthened at the back, but they've still got some shambolic players in David Luiz and co. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on. Arteta's still got some work to do. The squad he's got isn't incredible, but I think, honestly, this 5th position will be more a masterclass from Arteta in terms of tactics and team management than the squad they actually have. And I think to go further and get into that Champions League spot in the coming seasons, they do need to strengthen a bit more and really, mould a team together for the future. We're at the most exciting bit of the video, in my opinion, because a lot of the bottom half I really am not too sure on, and I'm not sure on this top part of the table either. It really could go either way with so many teams strengthening, such strong sides going into this. But here we go. You know what the top 4 are. 4th position, I've gone for Man United. So they obviously finished 3rd last season, ahead of Chelsea on goal difference. They're great going forward. We know that. They've got a lot of good players. I think Man United fans, and as a club, they wanted to strengthen even more. Maybe get an out-and-out striker, and obviously potentially Sancho coming in. But I don't think they'll make any more signings. Simple as that. Sancho, I don't think will be going to Man United. They've brought in Van der Beek, who is a great signing, don't get me wrong. Put him in there alongside Pogba and Bruno. That is a little bit scary, don't get me wrong. But defensively, still not there. and as a team, consistency-wise, I just don't think they've quite got it to go any further than 4th. They'll certainly be up there, and they'll certainly be a hard team to go and beat, but that's where I've put them. This is where it gets interesting. Next we go with, in 3rd position, drum roll please, because this one is a big important one. You might have guessed from that who it is. It's my boys Chelsea. I'd love to put them higher. They've gone massive in the transfer window, and I could spend a whole video talking about how excited I am to see Chelsea this season, being a Chelsea fan. With the signings they've made, they've strengthened even more going forward, and that wasn't a massive issue. We scored a lot of goals last year. Putting them away was a bit of an issue, so bringing in a clinical player like Werner that just scores goals, you put him there and tell him to score goals and he'll do it. The stats from the Bundesliga are incredible. Creative players like Ziyech and Havertz now, both being signed as well, you know, creating chances for Werner. For me, it just screams goals, goals, goals. Now obviously our biggest issue last season was defensively. We've made good signings, Chilwell and Thiago Silva at the back, as well as a couple of others that probably won't get quite a say in the team. But they've made good strides defensively, and I think we'll be a lot better than we were last season, but maybe not quite there to go on consistency-wise across the whole team to actually win the title. Now, when I put them in 3rd position, I don't mean like what we had last year, Liverpool and Man City leaps and bounds ahead. I think Chelsea are right in behind them, like genuinely in behind them. In the last couple of days, we're having progressions on a potential new goalkeeper signing as well. And if that comes in, like this is an 11 out of 10 transfer window, maybe the best transfer window we've ever seen. And at that point, it's just a case of can all these players come together, hit the ground running, work together, and actually produce an end product. And that's what we've got to see with Chelsea. Moving into the top 2 spots, and this is, I mean, obviously we know who's left. It's Liverpool and Man City. And it's a case of which way around I've put them. 2nd place, I've gone with Liverpool. Fancy little transition there. I don't think they're going to do it this year. I don't think they're going to be convincing, and I nearly put Chelsea in 2nd ahead of Liverpool. Just thinking team for team, do I think Chelsea can beat Liverpool? They gave them a good game last year a couple of times, and with the additions and the lack of additions for Liverpool, I think Chelsea can beat them one-on-one. So that sort of leads me to, it's just the consistency. That's the only reason I've gone for Liverpool over Chelsea. They know how to do it. They've done it last year. They grinded out results. And I think they will do it to a certain extent this year, but not to the level to match up to our winners, Manchester City. I think Liverpool need to make more transfers, ideally. I feel like there's going to be a bit of lack of motivation going into the season. They looked a bit sluggish after the restart. I know they didn't have a lot to play for because they sort of had already won the league. But they're going to have to prove me wrong, and I think they probably will. I think they will be a very good side this year. But for me, not quite good enough. I think Man City are going to edge it this year. And that leads us on. There we go. There's the confirmation, the grand reveal. We lift it up. Manchester City. They were there last year. Just not, the consistency wasn't there, and they lost, games they can't be losing if they want to go on to win. And I think the points total might actually be lower this year because I don't see teams going on mad unbeaten runs like we see last year. But for me, Manchester City under Pep Guardiola, they score goals. Defensively, they're not bad. Hopefully they can sort of improve with the signings they've made. A couple of great defensive signings, potentially more still to come. A couple of additions going forward to an already scary attack that can just score like 4 or 5 goals against any team in the league. Literally. They put like four past Liverpool. For me, they're going to win the league. This is the pretty much finished table here in front of you. Looking at it now, I have my doubts, I have my regrets, but this is what I've gone with, and there's no changing it now. So please let me know in the comment section below how bad this is, what you'd change, and if possible, let me know your full predictions in the comments. So when we get around to this in a year's time, I react to what actually happened and see that I probably didn't get any of these positions right. I can look down at your predictions and see if I was the only one that was bad or if you guys were a lot better at this than me. I guess on that, this has probably dragged on a little bit. My jaw's hurting from literally rambling so much in this video, but I hadn't prepared it. That was honest, whatever come to mind with each team is what you've heard. So I hope you did enjoy it. Cool little video. I'm going to be doing a few more real life videos like this, including FPL videos, because in FPL more than anything else I need your help. So it'll be fun to share my team and thoughts with you, and get your advice. And with that being said, I'm going to end it here. Hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in my next video.